Alright lads, long time, no upload. To cut a long story short, my dog chewed through my Ethernet cable. He's just turned 1 year old and he's starting to get his rear teeth through, so he's just chewing up basically my entire house. Anyway, today's video, by popular request, is going to be focusing on the BMP-2M. This is the rank 6 squadron vehicle for the Soviet tech tree, which has recently been increased in battle rating up to battle rating 9.3, mainly due to its new round, as well as, being blatantly overpowered at battle rating 8.7. Anyway, I said this is a squadron vehicle, meaning it will have to be unlocked by getting squadron points. Basically, you have to join a squadron and then play quite a lot of, it's a long few months really to unlock it. Alternatively, you could pay Gaijin some several golden eagles and get it early, which is basically the reason they added squadron vehicles, make them overpowered, then give you the option to buy them with golden eagles. Anyway, Gaijin's corrupt business practices aside, let's get into the nitty gritty details. So as I said, this is a rank 6 battle rating 9.3 light tank located in the Soviet tech tree. It costs 480,000 squadron points to unlock, and then we'll have to purchase it for 740,000 silver lions. Alternatively, you could buy it outright for around 8,000 golden eagles, if I remember correctly. It's also worth reminding you that as it is a squadron vehicle, this is not a premium, so you will not get enhanced rewards and silver lion modifiers. To put the vehicle in your lineup, it will cost you 210,000 silver lions, and for the expert and ace qualifications, which I would recommend getting if you can afford them, especially for a vehicle with such a high battle rating, it's 740,000 silver lions for the expert, and 2,100 golden eagles for the ace qualification. So boys, there's certainly been a lot of chatter about how overpowered this tank is, but with the new dart rounds and the battle rating increase up to 9.3, is it still worth grinding? Well, stick around for the rest of the video to find out. Welcome back. So, the mobility and survivability. While this little light tank is powered by an engine producing 360 horsepower, combined with the vehicle's weight of 41.5 tons, it gives this tank a power to weight ratio of 24.8 horsepower per ton. On paper this is actually very good, but because it's a vehicle of Soviet design, it kinda has a dodgy transmission. While the BMP-2M certainly is fast in a straight line, being able to achieve 65 km per hour going forwards, and 11 km per hour in reverse, problems arise when you try to actually turn the tank. It feels incredibly heavy and sluggish, but as I've already said, the vehicle only weighs 14 tons, so it's not the actual weight of the tank that makes it feel this way. The tank just has a very bad transmission in my opinion, especially when you try to turn on the spot or turn while moving. It just feels incredibly sluggish to play, kind of like a chieftain main battle tank. Pretty fast in a straight line, but the second you press A or D, your transmission says sod that, goes gets itself a nice glass of vodka, and takes the rest of the afternoon off. Anyway, the survivability, which isn't much better than the actual mobility. This is basically a 7.3 armor section really. The hull is found on the BMP-1 at 7.3, the BMP-2 is just a modification of the BMP-1 chassis. But because this is War Thunder and Gaijin doesn't know how physics works, an armor piercing fin stabilized discarding saber round hitting the upper glacis of your armor is likely to bounce. Now in real life, this would not happen whatsoever, but in War Thunder, we live under something called Russian physics, where frankly, anything goes. But apart from your upper frontal plate, the rest of the armor protection is pretty terrible. This combined with the fact that you only have a crew of 3 men, with 2 in the turret and a single driver in the hull, it basically means you're incredibly bad survivability really. A penetrating round is likely to kill you in one shot, but again, that upper frontal plate does bounce a surprisingly high amount of incoming projectiles. But the rest of the tank isn't much better really. Pretty much all of the armour is around 15mm thick, with the exception of the front of the turret, which is 20mm thick. So again, pretty much anything larger than a 50 cal machine gun will be able to penetrate your armour. You're also incredibly vulnerable to incoming artillery, as well as close air support. And because the overpressure mechanic is so strong at the minute, any near misses from high explosive projectiles are likely to still kill the tank. So all in all, it's not looking too good for the BMP-2M. So why has it got such a high reputation? Well, it's basically all down to the firepower. The tank's primary armament is the 30mm 2A42 cannon. This is the same gun found on the BMP-2, as well as the KA-50 and KA-52 series of attack helicopters. You carry 500 rounds of ammunition in total, split across 2 belts. The turret traverse is pretty fast, allowing you to target helicopters pretty easily. You also have 74 degrees of gun elevation, which again allows you to engage low-flying aircraft. But the biggest weakness of this tank by far is the 4 degrees of gun depression. Like all of its Soviet cousins and brothers, the Soviet Union suddenly decided that they didn't need gun depression anymore, which I suppose didn't matter when you're planning on fighting in the flatlands of the wheat belt. But in War Thunder, where the maps are incredibly hilly, it is a serious disadvantage. You have to expose yourself quite a lot over a hill to actually take a shot, which at near top tier battles will pretty much get you killed. You have a selection of ammunition belts are available to this gun, however the main 2 that I would use are the APDS belts, which would be my secondary choice, and the new APFSDS belts, which would obviously be the primary choice. Now the APDS belt, which used to be the best round option, gives you 82mm basically point blank range, whereas the new APFSDS belts give you 102mm of penetration. It's not much, but because they are APFSDS belts, they also travel much faster, and that 20mm of extra pen does do a long way really. You can kill lots of NATO main battle tanks very easily with this thing. They usually only have around 30 to 40mm of armour on the sides, allowing you to frankly rip through them. We also have a bit of a gimmick on this vehicle, the 30mm AG-30. This is basically an incredibly short barreled Mark 19, if you're familiar with that in the American army. It's basically just a 30mm grenade launcher. It's incredibly low velocity, and it's basically used for actually engaging targets. It can be used for like knocking down walls and stuff like that, but it's largely just a gimmick. We then come on to the meat and potatoes of this tank, the solo feature that makes it stand out from pretty much every other vehicle in game, and that is the 4 ATGM launchers mounted on the sides of the vehicle, 2 on either side. These are the 9M133s, also known as the Cornet I believe. You carry 4 missiles in the tubes, and you have 4 extra reloads, for a total of 8 missiles. You have 2 missiles to choose from when taking this vehicle out, both of which are laser beam riding. The first is the 9M133. This is a tandem charge warhead, meaning it can rip through enemy tanks, as well as the ERA on front of them. However, not many NATO tanks actually use ERA, but this is largely irrelevant, as the missile still penetrates 1200mm of armour, making it one of the strongest anti-tank missiles in the game. These missiles can be fired on the move, meaning you do not have to stop the tank to fire them like a lot of other ATGM carriers. This feature alone does make the BMP-2M very strong, and because the missiles are laser beam riding, you can basically fire all 4 at once if you really wanted to, but because the missiles are so powerful, one missile will usually get you 1 kill, if you aim it correctly of course. The other missile is the 9M133FM-3. This is basically a variable time fuse shell, basically a proximity fuse warhead. It allows you to take out enemy helicopters with it, but in my experience, if you have pretty decent aim, you can just use the standard 9M133 missiles. I feel like taking the variable time missiles into battle is a waste really, just take 8 of the 9M133. And that's it for the armament. So is it worth grinding this tank? Well, it's a quick and easy way to get to the top tiers of the Soviet tech tree. If you have the T-72AV terms and want a little bit of a backup, then this is a great vehicle. I never recommend doing that though, the top tiers of War Thunder are pretty harsh environments, so it's always better to grind out the trees naturally and get accustomed to how the game plays. But this tank technically is free if you do grind it out with squadron points. However, like I said, that will take you around 3 to 4 months I believe, something like that. If you are going to buy this tank with Golden Eagles, remember once again, it is not a premium, but it certainly is very overpowered. It could easily go up to battle rating 10.0 in my opinion. There's no way that this tank is less powerful than the Stridsforden 9040Cs in the Swedish tech tree for example. Yes, they do use a 40mm cannon compared to the 30mm in this tank, but they are far less powerful than this vehicle. The 4 Cornet missiles, as well as the APFSDS firing 30mm cannon, basically allows this tank to be a backup even in 11.0 top tier battles. I use this along with the BMP-4 I believe, and you can just murder pretty much every top tier main battle tank you come across. I do imagine this tank will go up in battle rating again. That will not hurt the tank. In fact, it might actually help it, because at 9.3 you can see down tiers to 8.3, where you come across some of the larger heavier tanks, which are basically immune to your 30mm cannon. But at top tier, the sides and rears of pretty much every main battle tank in the game is under 40mm thick, and pretty much every gun at battle rating 8.3 can kill you just as quickly as the guns at 11.3. So I think this tank will go up to a 10.0 at least it should hopefully. Yes, you should grind it. Whether you should buy it, that's something that only you can answer. Anyway lads, if you enjoyed the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. And if you really liked it, consider becoming a channel member. Like T, Biff Webster, Tomato Salad, Deboa LX, Just Someone, Destroyer 1805, Dr. Bob, Tans, William Tessier, and Lola Alfonsi. Thank you very much for becoming channel members lads, and I'll see you in the next review.